Unveil the enigmatic tale of the Knights Templar, from their noble origins as guardians of pilgrims to their stunning fall from grace at the hands of a ruthless king. Explore the secrets, scandals, and mysteries that continue to shroud this legendary order in intrigue and fascination. The Knights Templar, known for their association with chivalry, secrecy, and mystery, played a significant role in medieval society. Established in the early 12th century, this military order with monastic roots was initially created to safeguard pilgrims journeying to the Holy Land. However, their influence expanded rapidly, transforming them into one of Europe's most influential and affluent organizations. Recognizable by their white mantles featuring a red cross, the Templars were not only fighters but also adept financiers who pioneered early banking practices that facilitated trade and commerce throughout the continent. Exploring the Templars' journey from prominence to downfall reveals a narrative marked by intrigue and enigma. Their swift rise to power was met with an equally swift and dramatic fall in the early 14th century, as King Philip IV of France, motivated by avarice and political aspirations, orchestrated a harsh crackdown on the order. Allegations of heresy, sacrilege, and malpractice resulted in widespread arrests and executions, casting a shadow of scandal over the Templars that continues to fascinate historians and enthusiasts alike. The origins of the Knights Templar are rooted in the chaos and fervor of the First Crusade. After the capture of Jerusalem in 1099, thousands of Christian pilgrims began traveling to the Holy Land. However, the journey was perilous. The roads were rife with bandits and rogue factions of the Islamic world, making pilgrimage a dangerous and often deadly endeavor. Enter Hugues de Payan, a French knight, who in 1119 proposed the creation of a monastic order of warrior monks dedicated to protecting these vulnerable travelers. With the blessing of King Baldwin II of Jerusalem, Hugues and 8 other knights formed the Poor Fellow Soldiers of Christ and of the Temple of Solomon, a title that would soon be shortened to the Knights Templar. The name was derived from their headquarters, located on the sacred Temple Mount in Jerusalem, a site believed to be the ruins of the biblical Temple of Solomon. From their inception, the Templars were bound by a sacred code of chastity, poverty, and obedience, but unlike other monastic orders, they were uniquely tasked with martial duties. They were not simply monks, they were warrior monks. The early years of the Templars were defined by their strict discipline and unwavering commitment to protecting Christian pilgrims. But as the Crusades raged on, their role expanded significantly. Their military prowess was soon recognized, and they became an elite fighting force in the Crusader armies. They distinguished themselves in some of the most brutal battles of the Crusades, from the siege of Ascalon to the bloody conflicts against Saladin's armies. In 1129, with the endorsement of Saint Bernard of Clairvaux, one of the most influential religious figures of the time, the Templars were officially recognized by the Church. This papal recognition was a turning point in their history. The Templars were granted extraordinary privileges, including immunity from local laws, taxation, and even the authority of bishops. They answered only to the Pope, which placed them in a position of almost untouchable power. As they grew in prestige, their ranks swelled with new recruits, including noblemen eager to fight for Christendom. However, the Templars were not just warriors. They were also astute administrators and financiers. As they acquired vast estates across Europe and the Middle East, they began lending money to monarchs, establishing a sophisticated banking system that allowed pilgrims and crusaders to deposit funds in Europe and withdraw them in the Holy Land. This was revolutionary for the time, and it made the Templars indispensable to both kings and commoners alike. They became the bankers of Europe, entrusted with vast fortunes, and their wealth, coupled with their military dominance, made them one of the most powerful institutions in medieval Christendom. By the late 13th century, the tides were turning. The Crusader states in the Holy Land were collapsing under the pressure of Islamic forces. In 1291, the fall of Acre, the last Christian stronghold in the Holy Land, marked the end of the Crusader era. The Templars, whose primary purpose had been to defend the Christian East, were suddenly adrift in a world where their original mission no longer existed. The loss of the Holy Land led to an existential crisis within the order. They withdrew to their European estates, where their immense wealth and influence began to draw unwanted attention. Without a crusade to fight, their role as defenders of Christendom was diminished. Meanwhile, Other military orders, such as the Hospitallers and Teutonic Knights, continued to thrive. The Templars, with their secretive internal rituals and vast fortunes, became increasingly isolated and vulnerable to suspicion. By the early 14th century, the Knights Templar had become a target for one of the most powerful and ambitious monarchs in Europe, King Philip IV of France. Philip, known for his ruthlessness and financial troubles, was heavily indebted to the Templars. His kingdom was in financial ruin following costly wars with England, and the wealth of the Templars became an irresistible prize. Philip orchestrated a plan to destroy the order and seize their assets. On the night of October 13, 1307, a date that has since become synonymous with bad luck, Philip's soldiers arrested hundreds of Templar knights across France. The charges were as shocking as they were absurd: heresy, blasphemy, devil worship, and even sodomy. Under torture, many knights confessed to these crimes, although historians now believe these confessions were almost certainly coerced. The Templars were accused of secret rituals that included spitting on the cross, denying Christ, and worshipping a mysterious idol known as Baphomet. These charges, combined with the confessions, were enough to convince the Pope, Clement V, to open an investigation. In 1312, under immense pressure from Philip, Pope Clement officially dissolved the order at the Council of Vienne. The wealth of the Templars was supposedly transferred to the Hospitallers, though Philip managed to appropriate much of it for himself. The final chapter of the Templars' story came in 1314 when Jacques de Molay, the last Grand Master of the order, was burned at the stake in Paris. According to legend, de Molay cursed both the Pope and King Philip as he died, declaring that they would meet him before God's tribunal within a year. Remarkably, both the Pope and the King died within months of de Molay's execution, cementing the Templars' downfall in the annals of medieval myth and mystery. The suppression of the Knights Templar did not end their story. In fact, it only deepened the air of mystery surrounding them. Almost immediately, rumors began to circulate that the Templars had hidden their vast treasures, some said in secret vaults beneath Paris, others claimed on the remote island of Cyprus. Some even believed the Templars had uncovered and safeguarded sacred Christian relics, including the Holy Grail, during their time in the Holy Land. These tantalizing myths gave rise to countless theories about what truly happened to the Templars and their supposed treasure. More enduring, however, was the idea that the Templars had not disappeared at all but had merely gone underground. Some theorists argue that the Templars survived in secret, eventually giving rise to the Freemasons and other esoteric organizations. Others suggest that the Templars played a role in the formation of modern banking systems, given their expertise in finance during their heyday. While the truth remains elusive, the legacy of the Templars is undeniable. They were pioneers in medieval warfare, logistics, and finance. Their vast network of fortresses across Europe and the Middle East, their international banking system, and their influence on medieval politics reshaped the landscape of Europe for centuries to come. The story of the Knights Templar is not just the tale of a group of warrior monks but a reflection of the broader forces that shaped medieval history. Their rise exemplified the power of faith, discipline, and military might. Their fall demonstrated the dangers of unchecked wealth and influence in a world governed by kings and priests. And their enduring legend speaks to the human desire to find meaning in the mysteries of the past. The Knights Templar were guardians of Christendom, yes, but their legacy transcends that role. They became symbols of the complex interplay between power and faith, and their tragic downfall serves as a stark reminder of how quickly fortune can turn in a world where politics and religion collide. As we unravel the history of the Templars, we are left with more questions than answers, questions about the true nature of their power, their secrets, and their fate. But perhaps that is what makes their story so compelling. Whether seen as noble knights, heretical conspirators, or tragic victims, the Knights Templar continue to capture our imagination, standing as guardians not just of Christendom, but of history's most enduring mysteries.